Hi and welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to talk about this drawing of Ruthie and some things that I'm doing now that I haven't been doing. I guess some ways that I have been trying to improve. Some goals I had when I started this was to have an interesting looking pose with props. I wanted to practice drawing like objects, but I don't want to just sit and draw objects, so I have to, everything has to have a character. I really like drawing characters to the point now that I'm not even like really doing backgrounds anymore because I like character art so much, so that's kind of becoming a problem, something I'm getting lazy with. And that was another goal I did. I'm doing this thing now where I'm putting like a frame around the character, and the frame is like a window into a background, just to sort of make the character look more interesting. I don't know if that's a thing that's really working or not, but I'm having fun doing it, so I'm not gonna stop until I find something better to do. And then my colors again. I'm gonna do a similar technique that I tried with GCat that I learned from watching Baba on Illustration. And yeah, that's pretty much the goals, and I feel like I succeeded in some ways and could improve in others as per the artist quota, status quo. If you're an artist, you hate everything you do. That's just the rules. I don't make them. One thing that I have been doing different lately is I have been using colored line art. I see it all the time where people just like don't use black lines for their line art, and I have always been of the mentality that you do the black line art and then you change it after. And I mean, it's not like you can't change it, you know, just because I used red I could change it later, except I couldn't because of a thing that happened that but yeah, that I liked using the red line art, and I liked using the blue for Giga so I'm trying. Maybe it's just a confidence thing. Maybe I didn't think I was allowed to do that because line's bad, and if they're a different color, then it will bring attention to the fact that line's bad. But I guess I'm more confident in my lines now, so I'm not as scared of that. I mean, my line work is definitely way more confident than it was. I guess even last year. I should dig up the first digital art I did on my old iPad and compare it, like in terms of line confidence. Anyway, that's a tangent. Another thing that I got to do with this one that was really fun is I got to do the texture on the braids, and it was a little intimidating at first, but it ended up being like really late in the afternoon when I started working on them, and I was really tired, and I started finding the braids really repetitive, like crochet, and I started getting really comfortable just working on them and zoning out. It was fun. There probably is a much easier way to do that, but I found the way that I worked on it very satisfying, and I don't take it back. I mean, yeah, definitely feel free to tell me if there's an easier way to have done that, just because I don't see myself doing this as a all the time thing in the future. It's definitely one of those things where the situation made it more fun than probably the actual experience of doing it. But yeah, I spent a good long while just doing braid texture, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I don't think I'm happy with like the total shading on the hair in the end. And I think that partly had to do with I wanted to change the red line art for her hair. I became unable to because halfway through the drawing, the file got too big for Autodesk to open. So I keep trying to open my file and get to my layers, and Autodesk is like, this is kind of beefy. I can't do this. In hindsight, I think I probably should have went ahead and emailed the file to myself and opened it in Clip Studio like it was suggested that I do, and try to combine some of the layers to make it a little bit easier for Autodesk. But I was frustrated and I wanted to not get my laptop involved, so I just used a exported flat version of a whip that I had. Thankfully, I had a current whip. That was good. That was a good thing I did. And I just had to basically shade everything flat. It was at the point where all the base colors were done, and Autodesk was like, please, no more. This is too heavy. I hope that is a thing that doesn't happen a lot, because that's frustrating. This was a fun thing that I fought with and probably should have used perspective rulers on. That's another thing that I've been talking about wanting to do, is actually bother to learn how to use the perspective rulers. I have an idea in mind for how I want to go about trying to learn them, but in a weird way, I'm too lazy to bother with learning to use the tool. I'd rather just fight with the drawing myself for some reason. But I did a lot of flipping the canvas for this little backdrop here, because I wanted to make sure that if I'm adding even a subtle background element or something that's not a full background element, that it still needs to look right in perspective, even if it is supposed to be set off from the character in the foreground. And I tried really hard. Straight lines are mean. That's the thing I do, is I make a layer in between and I do a color over in white to make sure that it looks good. I forgot to record. I got like halfway through this and realized that I didn't have the little time-lapse button pressed, and I'd colored all the background, so yeah, you didn't really miss a whole lot on that. You have the background colors separated from the foreground colors, and what I did was I did all the flats, and I tried to reduce the saturation on that color layer so that where the background and Ruthie have a similar color palette, I wanted them separated. I'll get it out. I know what I'm trying to say. They have similar colors, but I wanted to reduce the saturation on the background so that Ruthie stood out from the background more. And, you know, where the colors are so similar, she didn't just blend in with it. I wanted her to be a part of the scene, sort of coming out of the window, but not so much part of the scene that she blends in with it. She is supposed to stand out, and the background is supposed to be its own element, and I do think that I'm happy with how that turned out. I have got to learn how to shade with blue, because I really like blue shadows, but every single time I shade with blue, it just turns into mud, and I just end up laying heavily on the the color correction, which I guess there's no shame in that, but it does make me feel bad that it's like a consistent problem with blue. I don't know. But the method that I have been trying to use is I have been putting like a hard light layer on top of everything first, as sort of a guide where the light is coming from and where the shadows will fall, to make sort of like a gradient in like a suggestion of where I would like things to go. And following that, I go underneath that layer and I start building up the shadows and the highlights like I normally would. It's a little bit different for me because my mindset has always been that you build from the ground up. So I had always been like, okay, sketch, refine sketch, line art, base color, shadow, highlight. Like it was a building a tower and not like a flexible process. So I'm trying to break that mold a little bit, and I've been happier with my results because of it so far. It helps make the thing a lot more interesting. One thing that I wish I would have done with this a little bit more, I think that I got fed up and wanted to finish it. I think it could have been better, or I could have made it better. I don't think it's bad. Like I'll hate it in a few weeks, but you know, it's one of those things. I think that when I turned the hard light layer off, it took more away from the whole drawing than if I had taken the shadow or highlight layers off. So I wish that I would have made the drawing more better standalone without the overlay layer on the top. But again, I was fed up and I was kind of panicking because the more I kept working the shadows, the muddier they got and the more frustrated I got with it. And I didn't want to keep overworking it to the point that I didn't like it. I've done that before. There is the Gamtab illustration that I did that had a million freaking characters in it. I remember spending all that time on it, and I go back and look at it now and it just looks overworked to me. So something like that would be something in the future I'd like to give myself a second chance on. Something with a lot of characters and something that I can try to make very detailed, but work it just enough so that it's crisp and everything reads a little bit better and not so blurry. So I think that's something in the future that I'm looking forward to trying. I have a bunch of stuff that I would like to try this year, actually. But yeah, I feel like I'm off to a good start in 2021, trying new things with art and trying to improve. And I'm super happy with how this turned out. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna try to do videos more often and stuff. I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. There's links in the description to my social media. Sometimes I'm on Twitch. The great